Hey everybody, welcome to Lore Friday for August 28th, 2020. I'm your host, DM Galabond. Hey, alright everybody. Today on Lore Friday, we're continuing our look through the Princes of the Apocalypse campaign, and we are going to examine a really interesting adventure tonight called the Sacred Stone Monastery. Sacred Stone Monastery is supposed to be tuned for 5th level characters, but I ask the question, is it? Why do I ask that question? Well, I think you will find out soon enough. All right, let's go ahead and get on with the examination of this adventure. Okay, the Sacred Stone Monastery is one of the strongholds, surface strongholds that the um, cults of elemental evil have established. Collectively, the book calls these the haunted keeps, um, haunted by the monsters of the elemental cults, I guess. But in the very first line, it says, "The third of the haunted keeps of the Somber Hills, the Sacred Stone Monastery, is where the Lich Renwick Caradune chose to make his home, discouraging other monsters from settling nearby." Okay, so this is a place where a lich dwells. The former keep's been reborn as a Sacred Stone Monastery, now the home of a reclusive order of mysterious monks, which are actually the Black Earth cultists in disguise. Spend their days in meditation and rigorous exercises of self-discipline. Now, the monastery has two levels. It has an upper level and a lower level. The upper level is like the ground level. Um, these cultists here are reclusive. They do take slaves. They capture people, travelers, as slaves, but they put them to work in their mines below the monastery. They are not flashy or flamboyant. We saw a little bit about the ones that have the giant vultures and fly on the vultures, and they are known in Waterdeep as a band of nobles and stuff like that. Very flamboyant. Not these guys. These guys are completely the opposite. Very reclusive, and so people come around, they don't want anything to do with them. No, we already gave it the office. Go away. We don't want anything. Um, Now, if you can convince them by dropping a few names that you know, or that you are there to join up with the cult of elemental evil, okay, that is another story. You can get invited in, and you'll be watched, but you'll have an opportunity to sort of infiltrate a little bit. Um, the very interesting thing here is combat, and I have a funny story about combat when I ran this in Adventurers League. I'll get to that when we get to the different areas of the monastery. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and show you the enlarged map here. Um, this is the surface level of the monastery, and then this is the underground area of the monastery. Okay, the surface level, most of this is all set aside for the Black Earth cultists, except for this area right here. Uh, M16 right here, that is where the Lich Renwick stays. That's sort of that's his laboratory. Um, or I'm sorry, not M16 over here on this side. That's M6. My apologies. M16 over here is the Lich's laboratory, and M17 here is the Lich's quarters. And the Lich is still active and is still living in this monastery. So that's why I say it begs the question, is this really tuned for level 5 adventurers if there's a Lich? Well, there's a story to the Lich, and it's quite a funny story. All right. M14 back here is a garden, and all these little statues are actually gargoyles. And those, once again, you got a bunch of gargoyles tuned for a 5th level party. Okay, all right, maybe. And then you have the cultists all wandering around in here. And you also have this lower level. And in this area M21 down here, it's hard to see on this map because it's kind of small, but there's actually a cage there. And the cage actually holds an Umber Hulk that uh, has had its claws mutilated and has had 2 of its eyes put out. So the Umber Hulk cannot do its confusing gaze attack, and it cannot burrow. Um, and what the cultists do is they lure unwanted visitors or people that they deem unworthy over here to these stairs, push them down the stairs, which they can trap to then, or they can trigger a trap, which then dumps them down into this area here, and they let the Umber Hulk attack those people. So yeah, they're not. These guys are living up to their reputation as being pretty evil, and it also gives you kind of a sense of how the two sections of the map line up when you see these things here. All right, the different people that you will meet in here is you will meet a bunch of monks, and there's a lot of humanoids that they have created as new monsters for this adventure. They're like variations on um, various NPC classes. Um, there's also the potential that you can find minotaurs in here. Um, there are, the monks, Black Earth priests, Black Earth guards. Uh, you might see Duergar in here. You might encounter Duergar, as well as more of the monks. Then you have the leaders of this stronghold, which are Helen Ray is the abbess. She holds the title of the abbess here, and and then there's a priest named Carbo, Qarbo, and those two kind of run the show and make the arrangements for everybody, give the orders for everybody in this particular setting. There's gargoyles that are here. There's this trap on the stairs, bronze lever that will collapse the stairs, causing people to fall down into the area with the Umber Hulk. Um, there's also a something that they describe in here where the monks they wear these beaten gold masks that look like gargoyle faces. And so when you come to the door, if you knock on the door, they will actually answer the door wearing these gargoyle masks. So that might be a little bit off-putting to a party there. Um, and let's see. And there's a picture of them wearing their masks. Helen Ray. Okay. Now. Oh, okay. There we go. All of those statues in the garden are not gargoyles. It's only two of them. That was a detail I forgot from a few years ago when I ran this. And I might as well tell you a little bit about what happened when I ran this for Adventurers League. The party uh, came investigating this place, and they decided to, they scouted it out. They saw the patrols and everything, and they did a circuit around it to see what they could find. And they noticed a walled garden in the back. And so it's this M14, this Garden of Stone. And they went and they pushed in the door to the Garden of Stone, and they tried to sneak through the garden. Well, as they were sneaking through the garden, one of them failed a stealth check, and the gargoyles noticed them. And so the gargoyles started to come to attack. So, um, so one of the people had the brilliant idea in the party to use a shatter spell. Now, a shatter spell is really good against gargoyles, but it is incredibly loud and it can be heard by everyone within 300 feet. So basically, what they wound up doing is they wound up pulling uh, the entire monastery. All of the inhabitants of the monastery knew that they were being attacked, and they all came running after them. So they were almost certainly going to get killed, and most of them ran into an area. One of them failed a dex check and fell down, and as that character was trying to get up, a cold, dead hand grabbed that character by the ankle and dragged it off. And they realized, looking at it, that this thing carrying it was a moderate level undead. Um, I had put a couple of different undead creatures in there that were servants of the Lich. And it's time now that we should go ahead and we should talk about who this Lich is. This Lich is Renwick Caradune. The Lich is not a member of the Black Earth cult, and he doesn't care about the other residents of the monastery as long as they don't interrupt his studies. And this was kind of the important thing about what happened to this party. So, centuries ago, Renwick was a hero of some renown and the brother of Samular Caradune, who's the founder of the Knights of Samular. That is an order of knights that is off somewhere else in the Somber Hills, and the party can, in this campaign, the party can go to the hall where the Knights of Samular are. Two of them fought in the Second Troll War, and Renwick was hungry for arcane knowledge, and so he had started planning to become a lich, but something happened early. He became a lich only because he got fatally wounded in battle, and his brother decided to feed him. His brother, which is a lawful good paladin now, fed him a lichdom potion on the battlefield rather than letting him die. Because apparently he was out of healing spells. Nobody could apparently stabilize or heal this guy. So instead of letting him die, they gave him a lichdom potion. And the Black Earth cult tried to make an ally of Renwick, but Renwick made it clear that he didn't want to be disturbed and he didn't want to do anything. Didn't want to have anything to do with them. And I said when I ran this that the way he did that is that he allowed some of his undead minions to actually kill and eat some of the members of the Black Earth cult, and that made the cultists go, okay, we're not going to mess with this guy. We're just gonna leave him alone, and we're gonna stay over here on this side. And as long as he's gonna stay over there, we're gonna mess with him. Well, now what happened to the party that was running through? Because they woke up everybody in the monastery, and obviously they also got the attention of the Lich, which was not a good thing to do. And the Lich was this was the last straw for the Lich. He had been the way I put it is he had been upset with the Black Earth cult being there, and the uh, the undead brought this one character from the party before the Lich, and the Lich demanded that this character explain themselves and what was going on and why were they making all this racket and what was the problem. And the player made a few incredible persuasion rolls. And so the upshot of it was that the Lich was like, all right, I knew letting these damned cultists in here was a bad idea. I'm going to go ahead and clean house. And he said, you and your friends just leave. If you can, you leave. If you are still here when my creatures get to you, you're fair game for them. And so there was a skills challenge that I ran for the players to try to escape. They wound up escaping, and then the Lich just slaughtered all of the Black Earth cultists that were there. And of course, the party was scared to death to go back to try to get anything because the Lich had told them to leave and not come back. And when you're a 5th level character and you get told to do something by a Lich, unless you really have a death wish, you just get the hell out of there. when it says run, you run. And I did base that a little bit on the RP notes. Um, Renwick doesn't attack intruders. If he believes the characters are cultists, he says, I've already told you no, depart. If confronted by characters he believes are not cultists, he says, I'm not your enemy, now go. But if the characters provoke him, he'll warn them. And if they really are dumb enough to attack him, then he will do a time stop and unleash a cloud kill on him. And that's almost certain death for a 5th level party. And, they say that if the characters, somehow recognize Renwick and they've heard the stories from Summit Hall, where his brother's order still lives, then he may decide, I really should do something about these cultists. Uh, I interpreted all of that as these cultists bring nothing but these damned adventurers coming in here trying to do something about this. I've got to get rid of these damn things. And he just, he's just had it with these cultists and all the trouble they bring to him. So he just sends a bunch of his a bunch of his fairly, mid-level undead. I forget exactly what I had. I had some whites in there, and I had a few other things. I had a couple of things that had resistance to being turned because there are quite a few priests in the uh, cult, and so it's like, all right, and then I just basically narrated for the party as they did their skills challenge. I did have the skill challenge set up so that if they won the skill challenge, they would get away cleanly and they would kind of hear the screams as the cultists were being, mowed down by the undead servants of Renwick. And if they lost the skills challenge, I had it that they were going to have to face not the Lich himself, but have to face a pretty beefy group of undead that would be really hard for a fifth level party to defeat. And so I made it like where, yeah, there was really a lot riding on this. Um, so that, and this is all running this through Adventurers League. So now somebody who's real hardcore with Adventurers League will, put on their rules lawyer hat and go, well, excuse me, but you can't do that because you're supposed to run it exactly as a certain. Yeah, 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 fine. My players loved it. They thought this was great. Um, they got to see a lich at fifth level and they got to live to tell about it. And they got to see that thing, see the power that that thing could command through its minions to go destroy a bunch of things. But they didn't dare go anywhere near that again, And of course, by putting that in there, that meant that later on, if they wanted to, they always knew there was a lich that wasn't exactly like most liches. And maybe they could go back to it and, if they were really nice and they didn't intrude, they might be able to find out, you know, some information from him at some point. Or at the very least, if there were people that annoyed him, they could say, oh, yeah, hey, there's this abandoned monastery over there. Go over there. And, they could get rid of people that they didn't like that way. So then you have the Lich's quarters. Down on a lower level, you have the mines, and there's 17. I think it's between 15 and 20. I think it's 17 slaves that are down here. They're mostly humans, and they're guarded by Orogs and an ogre. Let's see. Then yeah, there's the thing, and then there's some information from one of the slaves who is a member of this delegation. And supposedly the search for this delegation is what kicks off the entire campaign. So hey, you finally found somebody that's part of that delegation when you get here. There's zombies in there. And then there's Samular's tomb. So Renwick's brother, his tomb is here, but it doesn't have Samular in it because Samular's order over at Summit Hall, they built a tomb and they interred Samular there. But Renwick, being a lich and having all eternity, said that tomb isn't good enough for my brother. And so he has been building this sarcophagus for literally centuries and setting up this mausoleum so that he can put his brother's remains in there. Now, at some point, he needs to go over to this order of the Order of Tyr at Summit Hall and steal his brother's remains so he can bring them back and inter them here. So now I'm sure that's going to go over really well when he finally gets around to doing that. But there's, yeah, so that's going on. And what makes it even worse is that the cult has defiled Samular's tomb by um, putting the body of a dead human knight in there that they captured um, along with the Mirabar delegation. So this is this was something. And then there's the Umber Hulk down, the reduced threat Umber Hulk, I should say. So it doesn't have its confusing gaze power, and it cannot burrow. And then you have the mines, and the mines are ostensibly they're actually a way to get down to the uh, underground temple of elemental earth, which is actually in some dwarven ruins, some 250 feet below the cellar of this monastery. So that transitions you right down in there, and that um, another thing that's curious about that is that area down there is significantly higher level than the than the monastery is. So that is the that is the Sacred Stone Monastery for you. Now, what do I like the best about this? I like the nice self-contained detailed map. I mean, and self-contained, okay, it actually has a couple of um, ways out that go to other places. So if you were going to take this and move it to another location and make it, let's say, something in a homebrew campaign, you could very easily say that the M23, the partly collapsed tunnel, which leads to something outside along one of the hills in this area, you could say that goes someplace else. And you could say that this shaft going down another 250 feet to the deeper ancient dwarven temple, or ancient dwarven stronghold, that actually goes somewhere else. Whatever makes sense with your campaign. So I like that. I like all of the detail of the way everything is set up here. It's cool that you have this little garden here in this whole area. And then all of the stuff going on in the underground. You have these cells over here that you can use. Either, you could say they're either prison cells, or you could say that they are barracks for somebody, depending on what your campaign is doing. And the fact that you have all humanoids in here, it makes it really easy to swap those humanoids out for other humanoids. Make them tougher, make them weaker, depending on whatever it is that you want to, uh, whatever level your party is that you want to interact with this area and you want to run through this area. Um, the thing that's the most curious and strange about this is obviously the presence of a lich in an area that's designed for fifth level um, fifth level adventurers. There's a something of me that says that maybe Wizards of the Coast was trying to see, okay, we're just going to see how smart the modern D&D player is and whether they understand that, not everything that's in an adventure is meant to be fought. And can we put a super high level enemy in an area that would just literally single handedly mop the floor with everything in the entire complex, both the adventurers and the cultists combined? And can we let it, can we have the players figure out how to interact, or if they get wind of it, how to stay away from it so they don't have to interact with it? Because a lot of times players are like, ooh, it's a big monster. Let's go kill the big monster. Yeah, and tell me how that works out when you try to attack a lich at 5th level. It's not gonna be very pretty there. Um, so the um, so you have all of this here, and you have that little element. And of course, if you're homebrewing this, you can completely take the lich out and replace it with something else. Uh, Change that laboratory over to some other kind of thing. Uh, Let this be a monastery, let it be a keep, let it be whatever. You can do all kinds of things with this. All right. Then reskinning it. Well, repopulating it is kind of reskinning it. Do whatever you want with it. That is a little look at this adventure. It can take a good 2 or 3 sessions to go through this whole place, depending on how much you want to fight, how much you want to sneak, what you stay away from, what your party's objective is when they come here. If they're just looking to um, murder all the cultists and take all their stuff, then there's plenty of population here that you're going to spend quite a few battles getting through all of them. And there's something that they do that I don't like. And I think they do it because of the fact that they expect this to be for relatively low level monsters. They say, or low level players, characters, I should say. They have this, they write into it that the cultists have this fatalistic view, and as long as the combat is not loud enough that it draws attention from other places, when the party engages monks, they tend to not cry out for help. Um, but I just had to look at this and say, when the party is going to announce themselves by setting off a shatter spell right in this courtyard here, that's clearly going to draw everything's attention. And they're all going to know they're under attack, and they're all going to run after that. And of course, that annoys Renwick, thus his involvement in it. All right. If you like everything that we're doing here on this channel, please subscribe. Please like the video. Please click the post notification bell so that you're notified about everything that we're doing here. Go ahead, feel free to share this video with anyone that you think might like it. In the comments down below, I'd be really curious to see if you have played the Sacred Stone Monastery before, whether you were part of a party or whether you were a DM. How did you deal with the Lich? If you're a DM, did you even decide to leave that element in there, or did you just not even ever have the party interact with the Lich? If they tried to get into that area, what did they find when they were there? If you were a party member, did you run across the Lich? What was your interaction with that Lich like? I'm kind of curious about that. And yeah, I'll be very interested to know from your comments what went on with this. All right, that's going to do it for today. I appreciate you stopping by and sharing this, sharing your time today. We will see you next week. Good night, everyone.